Today was your last day. How will you spend it?
With my family.
Anybody else?
I would say the same.
Same thing.
Yeah, out in nature with my family, catching up on sweet memories that we had. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when times and days are few, you realize what's important. The biggest problem with the culture we live in is they've kept us so busy with things that mean nothing. And the most important thing that we all have been blessed with is time. We all have time, but we only realize we have time when it's too late. The average lifespan for a South African is 64. Most people live up to 75. But if you're going to live up to 75, simply it means you've got 3,900 Saturdays in your entire life. And I only realized that when I became 55, because then I realized I've already spent 2,900. I only have 1,000 left. Now the question is, if you only have that much Saturdays, what are you doing with your time? And for us to realize how important time is, you have to attach a value to your time, because most of us don't really know how much our time is. And anything that does not know its value abuses itself. How much is your time worth? Who can tell me how much their time is worth? What are the problems if you don't know how much your time is worth? One, you're going to be underpaid for it. Two, you're going to abuse it. Three, you're going to occupy it with the wrong things. Now, we live our lives in seasons. And the importance of knowing the value of your time, it makes it easier for you to understand what season of your life you're in. Because if you don't understand the season of your life you're in, you get stuck in an old season. And being stuck in an old season makes it much easier for you to lose the opportunities and all the chances that are present in the present season. And you end up spending most of your time with the wrong people. Now we need to realize what season we're in. Now, if you look at the human life, God gives us a life in seasons. And it is important for us to understand what season we're in so that we can be able to prepare ourselves for the opportunities that we have. One thing that we get given is time. And time comes with opportunities. And each opportunity that you're given comes with a responsibility. When you are born initially, as a young person, you are born and you know nothing. You come in this world, you're entirely dependent on the environment, your parents, your early caregivers to give you identity and bring you up. And then as we start growing up, we get into our teens, we start going into school. When we get into college, we start building our own identity. We start finding out what is good for us. College is purely a time for experimentation. That's when you get most of your firsts. Your first kiss, your first love, your first taste of freedom. All those things that at home you are not allowed to do. When you get into college, you think you have this carte blanche, and you go on this tirade of doing different things. Then when it gets into your 20s, it's purely exploration. That's when we become rebels without a cause. You know more than your parents. And everything a grown-up person tells you, when they look the other way, what do? You only realize how much you know when you become a parent yourself. And you only realize how little you know and how much your parents knew when you become a parent. When we get into our 30s, we start building an identity. We start building this container around us. That's when we start building careers. That's when a society expects us to get married, to have kids, to have homes, to buy cars. We're building this identity that goes with who they tell us we should have been. Then when we get into our 40s, that's an age for editing. In our 40s, we more or less know what you stand for. You know who you want in your life. You know exactly what works, what doesn't. You know exactly if you're going to get married or not. You exactly know if your relationship is going to last. You exactly know if you can afford the house you're living in. That's a time when you decide, I have to make a life for who? I have to make a life for me. In your 50s is when you start bearing the fruits of your investment. Because if you invested your time in things that need to be done, then in your 50s, all of a sudden, the tree starts to bear fruits. And in your 60s, all of a sudden, it changes, shift changes. We're no longer chasing. Most of us want self-containment. We want to feel complete. We want to feel one with ourselves because in most cases, as we're chasing these things, we're very disjointed. We have so many masks in so many different areas. We have a mask for being a husband. You have a mask for being a wife. You have a mask for being here. You have a mask for being a mother. You have so many different masks to a point where it reaches a point where it's hard to know which face belongs to you. But when it gets into your 60s, when you look in that mirror, you want to recognize that face. You want to have a relationship with that face. You want to be able to smile through the furrows and the frowns and everything that in your face, knowing that every line on your face means something to you because you are very intentional. In our 70s, we start focusing more on others. We start investing in others. We start pouring ourselves in those people that are coming up because we realize that we are nearing the end of our journey and we are on our way out. And success is only defined by a successor. You're not successful until you've poured yourself into somebody else. Because none of us were given our gifts just to benefit us. Everything that we've been given is for others. And if others are not benefiting from whatever it is that you have, then you become an intergenerational thief because you are stealing from those people that are around you. But the point of today is more or less give you intentionality, settle you in a culture that tells us everything has to be instant. When you go on social media right now, they tell us how people are successful overnight. And in doing that, it steals from us our ability to prepare for the future. It steals from us the ability to work hard. It steals from us the ability to lay down a foundation for the kind of life that we want. Now you have a certain belief, a certain vision in your head of where you want to go. But you have to start somewhere. But all these things can only be achieved through time. Time is a gift that God has given us. God himself lives outside time. Time means nothing to God. He doesn't get old, so he doesn't have to worry. God doesn't get sick. He doesn't have to worry about time. God doesn't get hungry. I'm getting old. I get sick. I get worried. So I have to worry about time because time is an interruption of eternity where God lives to show me that he gives me that ability to tell me that if I don't like today, I can change tomorrow. He gives me that ability to tell me that if this kind of life you're creating now, can you be able to live with it in eternity? So everything that I do, I have to understand that life is a gift. And life is a gift that comes given through time. And that time comes as a gift with a responsibility. How much is your time worth? What's your name, sir? Brandon, how much is your time worth?
I don't think I'll be able to put a word on it. It's unlimited.
Is it true time is unlimited? Is it true time is unlimited?
its worth, I would say, you can't put a price on time because it's very precious.
It's very precious. What is more important, time or money?
Time.
Then why are we working for money using our time? Right? What is more important? Because your time, anything that you give your time to is an exchange of your life. This time you hear, you'll never get it back. Right? This time you hear, you'll not get it back. But no matter how much you earn, you can make that back in so many different ways. So how much is your time worth? Because until we ask ourselves these fundamental questions, unless we change the way we think, we cannot change the way we live. Ye be transformed by the renewal of. And if I have to translate that, all it means, ye be transformed by the transformation of your mind. Mind is God, and Lord is law. You can only worship God through mind. And you cannot worship God if you're ignorant. Right? So let's try and work out a very easy formula. How much is our time worth? Okay? Are we okay? Are we okay here?
Yeah.
How many hours do we have in a day? 24? We have 24 hours in a day. How many seconds do we have in a minute? How much does this give us? 1,400. Huh? How much? 1,440, right?
Yeah.
Now, let's look at time as money. Let's look at time as money. Now, time is better than your bank account because it does not look at your race, your religion, your height, your age, where you were born. Every single day, whether you spend it or not, every day when you wake up, you got how much money? But whether you spend it or not, when you go to bed at night, that one is taken out. It's negative. So you cannot save this. You cannot steal it. You can only spend it. Okay? Now, how many days do we have in a year? 360? Now, 365 times 1440. What does that give us? 525, 600, right? Right? So technically, if we're using this as a monetary value, if you're earning 525,600 rands a year, how much is your time worth a minute? How much? So that's the value of your time. So we can't really say, so you're going to have to take what your annual income is and divide it, and that gives you what your value of the time is. That's the value of your time. Now, who's determined that? Because if you're not actively involved in that, somebody's determined how much you're worth. Right? Now, how do we change that? Do we have the ability to change how much the value of our time is? How did you get where you are? What steps did you take for you to be worth how much you're being paid now? You went to? Yeah, you took steps. Yeah, there are steps that you had to take for you to get where you are now. Now, if we're going to be intentional, if we're going to raise the value of our time, then there's a couple of specific things that we need to do. There's two ways. You can either earn money, right, or make money. And that brings us to two ways. You can either be employed or deployed. And each of these, if you choose it, it does change the value of your time. How many people want to make more money? How many people are ready to change themselves? Because the hardest thing for most of us as human beings is we want everybody around us. We even want God himself to change, but we're not willing to change ourselves. You'll even pray to God to help your husband change. You'll even pray to God to help your wife change, but you're not willing to change your own mind. Because the ability that we've been given as human beings is if you change. I can see Hendrik, I see him like this because of what I think of him. But if I change how I think of him, he changes in front of me. But if I keep on focusing on him changing, for me to change, what do you think will happen? Now, let's change. All we want to do in the next 10, 15 minutes is to increase the value of your time. Now, we have this that we call the productivity pyramid. Okay? I'm going to divide your life into 4 areas. We call this your productivity pyramid. At the top here, you want to be able to increase the value of your time. And this is what we call, we're starting here, and this is what we call life-changing values. These are the things that if you invest your time and money in them, they will change your value as a person. For you to be able to attract more money, you have to change as a person. Because money is a byproduct. Right? Now, what are the things that we need to do here? This one, I'll give you what I call the F series. The first thing that you need to invest in here is your faith. Everything around you is changing. But one thing that will always be constant in your life is your relationship with God. But most of us, unfortunately, we have better relationship with our bosses, better relationship with our work, but we have no relationship with our Maker at all. And as long as we do not have a relationship with our Maker constantly, we lack stability. If our foundation is weak, our life is weak. When we're talking about faith, I'm not necessarily talking about religion. I'm talking about you having values. What drives you? Hendrik, what are some of the things that are non-negotiable if I had to get into a business deal with you? Non-negotiable. It doesn't matter how much money I put on the table. What are your non-negotiables? Most of us don't have non-negotiables. We don't have non-negotiables in our work relationships. We don't have non-negotiables in our relationships. We don't have non-negotiables. So what happens? We constantly follow the majority. And the majority are always wrong. Right? So what is your faith? You have to build your faith. And your faith starts with values. What are values? Value simply means something you value. If I value my wife, I'm not going to devalue her by going out with somebody else. If I value my job, I'm not going to devalue it by not being prepared or by coming to work late. If I value your friendship, I'm not going to talk behind your back. What is it that you value? That becomes the foundation of our faith here. Right? Second thing here is family. Look at your life. You spend most of your time with people that are non-family members. You spend more time, 85% of your time, you'll spend it with the people that you work with, and most of them don't like you. And when we go home, the people that love us, we tell them, I'm too tired. I need to unwind. So what do you do for a man? You take off your shoes, kick the shoes off, put your feet on the table. You're either watching a sports game or whatever. Kids want to play with you. The wife wants to talk. You say, I'm busy. I'm distressing. Same thing with women. The people that love us most get the least of us. Now, if you're going to live up to 75, remember, 25 years of that time, you'll already be sleeping. 25 of those years, you'll be at work. When do you really have time for your family? So you have to make an appointment to make sure that it doesn't really matter how you feel. Family has nothing to do with feelings. If you decided to be a husband, if you decided to be a wife, it doesn't matter how tired you are. It's a commitment that you've made. I went out there, I've worked for 12 hours, I'm tired, but I'm your husband, I'm here, how was your day? You, my child, how was your day? Family is a commitment that we have to make. Why? Because at the end of the day, when you are on your deathbed, the person that is going to pass you your last glass of water is not going to be somebody you worked with. It will be a family member that you haven't spoken to in a very long time. So it's better as we get older to prepare for where we're going by surrounding ourselves by the people that we're born with. Family is not always easy, I know. Family is one of the most testing relationships you'll ever have. God is a comedian, and that's why he gave us friends. Okay? The third one here is finance. Money is not everything, but it's up there with oxygen. As long as you live in this world, as long as you live in this material body, you cannot live without money. People say money is not happiness. They've never been poor. It's easy to talk nonsense like that if you've never been what? If you've never been poor. As they say, I would rather be unhappy in a Mercedes rather than be what? In the world we live in, unfortunately, you cannot become who God intended you to be if you're poor. Because for you to actualize yourself, be the best version of yourself, you need to have access to tools. You need to live in a nice area where people just won't kill you for fun. You need to be able to eat good food. You need to be able to take time off, not to work 24/7, 7 days a week. You need to have access to good schools. And the one determining factor, one of the biggest signs for intergenerational wealth is where you live. Because where you live determines where your kids will go to school. And where your kids go to school determines what kind of teachers they'll have to. A child that is born in Alex and a child that is born in Santon, do they have the same opportunities in life? No, it doesn't. So one of the things that we have to understand is that finance, money, is a good master but a horrible. It's a good servant but a horrible master. But we have to make money. Money is a way of showing the people around you that you love them, you can take care of them. So we have to make sure that this becomes, in everything that we do, we need to have this F in here. The next one here is fitness. Most of us, unfortunately, underestimate the power. Your body is a vehicle. Your body is a vehicle. Statistics show very well that people that exercise, that people that eat well, live longer. Does it mean that God loves them more? Why do they live longer? Because they give God a reason to fulfill his purpose in them. Because if your body dies, your spirit lives. And your spirit cannot fulfill the God-given destiny. If you have diabetes now, if you have high blood pressure, that becomes your new God. Where is my tablets? Where is my sugar? It changes your perspective. And the scripture clearly says that no other God shall be. We serve a jealous God. He doesn't want you having some other small gods around that you're worshiping. And when you let go of your body, unfortunately, You bring in other idols that God does not like. The other one here, which is important for us men, Hendrik, is friends. Ask any man 40 plus. 5 of their friends, most of them won't. They start naming even their own kids. Most men don't have friends. Women can bond over makeup. Women talk. Women can bond over coffee. Women can bond just to go to the mall and walk. Men, we don't. Men, we bond over pain. That's why you see people like that have been in the military together. You see, I have to go through something with you for us to bond. But most of us are so afraid of pain nowadays. We live in a society that says pain is bad. And in locking out pain, you lock out your own growth. Where there is growth, there is pain. You cannot grow without pain. And we mistake pain with suffering. Pain is part of life. There's no woman in here that has a beautiful baby that didn't go through the pain of child labor. You had to go through that pain. All of us here had to go through teeth pain for us to have beautiful teeth. But it's only when it comes to us growing up, we start avoiding pain. And the minute you avoid pain, it means your life is locked. Now this becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This becomes the most important things that we have to bring in here. We're trying now to increase the value of your time. Now here we have what we call high money value activities. High money value activities. Not everything you do is important. Most of us spend a lot of time on urgent things. Money is a byproduct. A tree is only a tree until it bears fruits. If it does not bear fruit, you don't know what tree it is. You just look at it. This thing looks like a mango. This thing looks like a... What tree are you? Right? Faith without works is dead. Now, for us to be able to do this, we have to build our faith system. Right? What are the things that we need to do so that we can make as much money as possible? Is money good or bad? Good. Money is good. Is money a man's idea or God's idea? No, it's a God idea. Where did money come from? Who came up with money? Money is a symbol. What's your name, Mom? Karen. You make these pens, and I want this pen. How do we exchange the value? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Still exchange of value. She's got something I want it, but I don't have anything that she wants now. But to show her that I appreciate it, I'll give her what? Money. Money is a spiritual representation that you're serving others. Money is a way of showing that you are serving her. Or you can only get money from people. You don't get money from dogs. You don't get money from cows. Money means nothing to other animals. The only animal that money means something to is who? So where did money come from? Money comes from man's mind. And who put the mind there? It's God. So money is not a good idea, it's a God idea. Jesus spoke more about money than salvation. Okay? So what do we need to do? Now, if we're going to make money, it means you have to change, Hendrik. What is the first thing that you have to do, Lolo, if you're going to attract double, 10 times what you're making now to create value? And the first thing you have to do here is to make more money, you have to raise your own personal standards. Most of us, unfortunately, we have very low personal standards and we complain why things are not happening the way they're supposed to happen. It starts with you. It starts with you. So what is the first rule for you to raise your own personal standards? Excellence. You have to choose excellence as a standard. What is excellence? It's absence of contradiction. You can't, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you've got great work, Tuesday, Thursday, you just touch and go. No, it doesn't. That's luck. You have to become so good at what you do to a point where nobody can employ you. If they don't deal with you, they lose out, right? How do you do that? By taking excellence as your only operating standard. Now, excellence gives you what we call reputational currency. Excellence attracts opportunities. Excellence secures your job. And excellence increases your value on the marketplace. If you haven't chosen excellence intentionally, what have you chosen? What's your name? Jeza. What is your, if you haven't chosen intentionally excellence, what have you chosen? Mediocrity. And mediocrity is professional malpractice. It's an ugly two-headed beast that you cannot allow in your life. Where there's mediocrity, there's poverty. And nobody chooses mediocrity. You choose the mediocrity by default. If excellence is not your operating standard, then you fall back to what? You fall back to mediocrity. And in this kind of setup, there is no more important currency than reputational currency, because it's your intangible currency. When we talk about your reputation, we're talking about your character. Your reputation protects you in your absence. What is your standard? There's a very easy way to test your standard. Take out your phone or go on your laptop and send an email and say, I'm resigning with immediate effect. If they beg you to stay, then you're excellent. And if they ask you, if they tell you, but you must serve your notice, then you know, I need to do more. Now, these are things we have to constantly keep on doing these things. So number one here is excellence. The second thing we need is self-discipline. Most of us lack self-discipline. Anything we only save here today because there's external discipline factors out there. I didn't die in that traffic light because there's external discipline enforced. If you go through the red traffic lights, either you're going to get a fine or something will happen. All those things, to get to the airport on time or you miss your flight, to go to the doctor on time or they won't see you, all those are external sources of discipline. But for you to change as a human being, you need self-discipline. But most of us hate self-discipline. Most of us don't have self-discipline. And any area of your life where you lack self-discipline, you become a prisoner because it controls you. So in this environment, that's number two you need to do. Number three, you need to live a deadline-driven life. Deadline-driven life. Without deadlines, any project or task will take as long as you decide. Deadline brings in urgency. Deadline shows your commitment. Deadline makes sure that you maximize the opportunities that you've been given. So everything that you have to do, you have to make sure that it's deadline driven. We live in an environment, we live in a culture where there's too much distractions. So if you don't decide that I'm going to sit here for this next 45 minutes and finish project A, B, C, it will take you the whole year before you do that. And what does that do to your excellence? It affects your excellence. The third thing here is you have to have a no excuse policy. Why do people make excuses? Why do people make excuses? Not enough self-discipline. Why do people make excuses?
It can be reasons sometimes. If I'm late because there was a car crash and there was 10 things to excuse the reason. So it can be an explanation.
No, there's a difference. There's a difference between an excuse and a reason. But let's stick to excuses. Why do people give excuses?
To excuse their mediocrity.
To excuse their mediocrity. What else?
Because you said earlier that no one wants to be wrong, so I'd rather change another person. So if I can find some way of making myself a good person in a situation, then I'll come up with an excuse.
Beautiful. So people make excuses. One, because they did not keep their word to you, as prescribed earlier. They said, I'm going to do this, they didn't do it. But the most important reason why people make excuses is because they want pity. They're manipulative. A person that makes excuse, watch that person. They're trying to manipulate your emotions. They want you to feel bad for them for not fulfilling, for them breaking a promise that was made. But the biggest reason why you have to avoid that is simply a low standard issue. Somebody that makes excuses has very low standards. So when somebody makes an excuse, you have to mark it in your head and say, I'm not dealing with you again. You know, don't fight with them, but just know straight away this one, because right now we all have an opportunity to make choices as an individual. But the minute we are together as an organization, you have no right to make a choice that will affect my life. Whatever choices that we make collectively has to be towards a certain goal. If we say we're going to do this together, whatever choices you make has to be in alignment with that, collectively. What you do personally is none of my business. But when we collectively break the agreements that we agreed on, you start affecting my life. And in an environment like this, it doesn't happen sooner or later. You become one of those people start talking behind in the corridors. You don't want to be in a workplace where the coffee machine, they're asking, did you see Lolo today? Did she send you the email? You don't want to be one of those people, because it makes the environment very uncomfortable for you to do what? For you to work. And then we have what we call low money value activities. This activity, are you guys with me? Yes. These activities that you invest a lot of time in them, but the return on investment is low. God is a businessman. God is a businessman, and he wants a return on his investment. And the best way for God to make sure that he gets maximum return on his investments, his automation is laws. God is given us specific laws to live by. If you break a law because of ignorance, it does not absolve you from the consequences. If you decide to jump from this building down there because you are drunk, it does not stop you from breaking and dying. Right? If I take a one-day baby and I drop the baby there because the baby doesn't know, it doesn't mean the baby will survive, because I've violated God's laws. Right? Now, what are the things, low money activities that most of us invest a lot of our time in, but the return on investment is minimal? What are some of those? Now, I want you to think totally different from women and men. The current woman now and the traditional woman, my mother, is not the same. My mother her job was purely to be a homemaker. Her job was to bring us up, cook food, and look after the home. The present woman is totally different. She still has to work 8 hours. She still has to chauffeur the kids to go to school. She still has to take the kids to sports. She still has to be a tutor at home. She still has to cook. And at night, somebody kicks her and says night duties, right? So you've got all these roles. You've got all these roles. Now, how do you maximize your time so that you don't be stuck in your mother's era trying to be the best wife, the best mother, the best human beings, and be content at the same time? How do you draw that balance?
You need to manage your time around all those roles that you have.
You need to manage.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you are mother, you are wife, you are teacher. How do you do that? Because it's too much for one person.
Yeah, it's too much.
So how do we do it?
You prioritize.
We have to know what is important and what is urgent. Cooking every day doesn't make you a better mother. We have fridges nowadays. My mom never had a fridge. You can cook 3 times a week. You can cook twice a week. Doing laundry every day doesn't make you a good mother. These are activities that you invest too much time, but they take too much time from you from being a good mother. So what are some of those things? It brings us back here. Now, you've chosen to be a career woman, right? So you have to become so good at what you do. One thing that makes money beautiful, the Bible says, redeem the time. With money, you can buy time. With money, you can buy. I can only do things I like. And things I don't like, I pay somebody else to do it. Now, what are some of the things that you don't like that somebody else can do? Rather than investing that time doing laundry every day, cooking every day, you can pay somebody else and you can spend that time with your husband and kids. Yeah. So those are things that we have to look at here. And most of these things are house chores. Admin. All these things, they take a lot of our time. But these are things that we can comfortably outsource. And then we have the last one here, what we call zero negative money activities. Zero negative money activities. Things that don't add, but they even take away from your life. What are those things? Yeah. Excuses, having no goals, eating junk. What else? What else? No exercise. Gossip. Lies. There's a lot of things here. There's a lot of things. Now, if you look at this, the minute you become intentional with this, it changes the value of your time. It changes the value of your time, because time, we've all been given 24 hours. Time is the only true democracy in the world. It doesn't matter whether you sleep under the bridge or you live in a penthouse. We all have 24 hours. Time reveals, time heals, and time conceals. Time will always tell us what you say you've been working on. You can say you've been busy, but time will tell us if you are lying. Time will always reveal if you're ready for the opportunities that you say you're planning for. Time will always reveal to us if you have a vision for your future. So the point of this is to show us that in this society that does not teach us how to plan, this society that does not tell us that we live in our lives in seasons, this society that tells us if we're working on something and it's not paying, now that we have to give up. The minute you have this plan, then you run away from the distractions where you want instant gratification. A microwave is a very new thing. So very few people nowadays, even if you ask them, that eat home-cooked oats. People eat 2 minutes noodles. We microwave everything. And that behavior, we've taken it into our profession, we brought it into our relationships. We punish hard work. So how do we do this? How do we change and increase the value of your time? And that will bring us to our last topic here. What is wealth? What is wealth? What is wealth?
I'll say it's your good house.
Mm-hmm.
If you have that, you're
Wealthy.
because you can still do more.
Okay. Anybody else? Lolo, what's wealth?
I don't know, but I'm thinking I would rather be wealthy than rich.
You rather be
Wealthy than rich.
than rich. For you?
Wealth can be money or health and encompass a whole lot of things other than just money.
What's your name? Kabel, what is your definition of wealth?
Really started to think about being wealthy and making a life where I can do what I want at the time that I want.
Okay.
So that means that
I would not have to work for money. Money would have to work for me.
Okay. Can you become anything you want to be?
Yes.
Can you become anything you want to be?
Yes.
Can I be a short white woman? Yeah?
If you identify
Can you be anything you want to be? No. You know, there's some things that are lies. There are some things that this society tries to impose on us to control us. Right? I cannot be anything that I want to be, but I can be anything that God wants me to be. Right? The most important thing is to understand who God wants me to be. One thing as you get older, you realize it's harder to ask God to bless what you want rather than find out what he wants, do what he wants, and it's easier for him to bless. Yeah. So most of us try to force his blessings into our lives. It's like you live under a rock and there's sunshine and sun rays every day, but because you're under a rock, the sun rays doesn't come under a rock. The easiest way to get the sun rays is to leave the rock and go where? And that's how most of our lives live. So if we're going to increase our value, if we're going to make as much money as possible, because without money you cannot contribute to as many people as possible. Our job in this world is to have an impact. If you're just trying to make as much money for you and your family, it's a good idea. But if you want to make as much money for as many people as possible, it's a God idea. And we've all been brought here to do God's work. God does not want just to bless what is good for you. He can only bless you if you are conduit for as many people as possible. Now, how do we become that person? There are 4 ways we're going to do that. Number 1 here, the lowest way of making money here. The lowest way of making money is muscle. Physical. This is where you use time and energy. You can work as hard as you want, as long as you want. It's finite. Those 2 variables, there's nothing you can do. Does work hard pay? Does working hard guarantee you wealth?
No.
But it can guarantee you one thing: tiredness. If you work hard, you'll be what? Tired, but does not guarantee wealth. But there's nothing wrong with that, because work is very good for character. Give me any time somebody that works hard, you can change it easy. So this one here, this will give us the lowest amount of money. Then the next one here, if you look at this, is time and energy. Finite. The second one here is management. Okay? The second one here is management. We work together. I've been working here for long. I more or less know everyone. I can do more work than everybody else. Management says, Hendrik, you can manage these people. They listen to you. They give you a little bit more than where? So what is your leverage here? It's time plus money plus other people's effort. So it increases your income. Then what's next here? It's your mouth. Communication. Your ability to communicate makes it easier. A singer, a salesperson, an actor makes much more money than these people, right? So communication here becomes key. And this one, the key thing here is words. Your income is in total proportion to the size of your vocabulary. Okay? And then the last one here is mind. And here is imagination. Your wealth is in your mind. You think it, and then you give it to the people with hands to work. Somebody manages, and it completes the whole cycle. Are you with me? Yeah. Any questions?
We had one question online from Toby.
Okay. Tobile, are you there?
Oh,
And Mike then should speak. Toby, are you there?
Is there anybody else with a question? Okay. So are we together here?
Yeah, very much so.
When people don't have questions, it's always two things. Either what you said nothing, or their mind is always somewhere else to go. But whichever way, I'm grateful. Thank you for this opportunity, and I hope to see you soon.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay.
That was so powerful. Thank you so much, Steve. I think with that, we really would like to extend, really, you have been gracious. So this free speech hopefully has really kind of had us thinking and kind of shifted our own perspectives in terms of how we see this. For me, the key takeaway is time, the value of time. And yeah, NFO team, there you have it. Thank you, Steve.
No, thank you.
So much.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. And thank you to your team as well. Yeah, so but yeah. Thank you so much.
I think it's great to have a different sort of structured thinking, and I think the source of his material, his advice was positive in general. I look forward to trying it out, and I think it has to be a recurring thing. I think just hearing it once off won't really do the job, but if you keep on sort of coming and you can practice what you've been doing, and then you excel at it. So I'm very happy with the chat.
It was very interesting, and I got a lot that I need to process. Value time and making a valuable input, make your time count. That's what I got. Thanks.
For me, that was like powerful, and yeah, especially about the time that we must spend wisely and know that our time is worth something, not knowing that it's not worthless, but it is worth it. And the information that we received from Steve, and yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm going to take it home and use it. Thank you.
I'll definitely say today's message really created more of an insight on how we can change and improve our life to the betterment, how we can manage our time, and how we can also have hope. I think it also gives out a lot of confidence and motivation for those who are struggling right now, for those who cannot manage their time and cannot see a brighter future. I think this is definitely something we needed. Thank you.
I think for me, the biggest impact was the framework itself. It's a framework that I was not aware of in terms of how it is that you can kind of plan your life going forward. It's an easily translatable framework, just determining what are low impact issues and what you should really invest in terms of high impact issues. So I think for me, the morning itself was just really overall empowering. So I think that is what I would say. It was an empowering morning. Yeah, reach out to more audiences. You've got a powerful story to share. Thank you.
The part that I liked the most was the part that he said that we need to stop being mediocre people, because at the end of the day, that's what's letting us stay in the same level that we are. If we want to be better people, we need to put extra effort. We can't expect to get 100% pay rise for only giving 10% at work. So for me, that was very insightful. It reminds me of the part in the Bible when they talk about the parable of the talents, and the guy had 5 and he doubled them to 10. And at the beginning, it says, at the beginning when he gave them the 5-3-1, it actually says at the bottom that he gave them according to their abilities. And then, afterwards he came back and then people had multiplied and then that guy had done nothing. And it's like, for you to be a better person, you need to actually put in the extra effort to show that you want to be a better person. And obviously he ended up getting all the extra one from that other guy, and then he kept getting blessed better and better. So I think in order to build wealth, we need to keep putting effort in all that we do. And then to Steve, I just want to say thank you for just giving it a different perspective. Because to be honest, he says stuff that a lot of people say. My husband listens to motivational speakers a lot, so it's like I listen to these things more or less every day. Don't be mediocre, don't do this. But he put it in a whole new perspective. Personally, I don't even listen to the people my husband listens to, don't like them. But he put it in a perspective that you actually realize that actually no, that's why this person listens to these people. It's something that pushes you to be a better person every day. Thank you, Steve.